Now, a state of mind is literally your clarity of mind in the moment. And that's why sometimes you have great ideas and your work is relatively easy. Like a lot of people describe that when they come back from holiday. A job that was previously stressful and difficult before they went on holiday somehow becomes easier when they come back. You can also see it in situations where we are very conscious of our state of mind, like maybe on a date or in an interview. We all know the more nervous we are, the harder normal tasks like sitting with somebody, listening to them, talking, even sharing your own experience in an interview. As you become more nervous, very simple tasks can become very difficult. And it's not until afterwards and your state of mind clears that you think, oh, I know what I should have said. Why didn't I say this? Why didn't I say that? And these are clues to the effect of our state of mind during the course of our everyday lives.
It's a term that people hear all the time, but sometimes we get asked, well, really, what is a state of mind? And essentially, it's the quality of thinking a person's in any moment.
It's your access to clarity of mind. It's your access to mental resources like creativity, clarity of thought.
We feel like state of mind is perhaps the most important variable that human beings are dealing with, but it's also the most invisible, so people don't realize they're dealing with it, and they often don't think about it and don't factor it in.
So shining a light on state of mind so that you can see it in action, you can understand the effect it's having, and you can understand how it works, has a major benefit, because as well as making you less likely to be the unknowing victims of your own state of mind and the state of mind in others.
People's capabilities, their clarity, and their effectiveness and their performance comes from whatever state of mind they're in the moment.
So I'm going to shine a light and start with athletics as a way of showing you how it works. Now, we all know that the best athlete doesn't always win. The best team doesn't always win. And it's not something we bank on. They get better odds because they got better skills, experience, knowledge, maybe even strategies, fitness, reaction times.
The second a player starts to get into their head, their game starts to suffer, and you see it almost immediately. I mean, if you take Tiger Woods, he's kind of the greatest example of being a golf genius that had quite a downturn in his state of mind due to a series of events in his personal life. And suddenly he was pretty much out of the game. He could not play the game the way he used to be able to. And that's a real, obvious, well-known, visible example of how state of mind determines what we're capable of in the moment.
But what we don't appreciate is that that same variation in performance is happening all day, every day to everybody, in the workplace and at home.
We like to bring an understanding of state of mind to the business world because even though it's less visible in the business world, it's just as relevant a factor. So people's ability to communicate effectively, to be present and helpful in a meeting, to go out and interact with customers in an effective way, sales, innovation, creativity, resilience in the face of change and changes in leadership and change in the economy and the marketplace. All of people's capability to be responsive to that, much like in a game of tennis, comes from their state of mind in the moment. It's much less visible, but it's just as much a factor.
The fact that state of mind is invisible has created a lot of chronic but unnecessary problems within businesses. Because people don't see stress as coming from their state of mind, they assume it's coming from the fact that they have a lot to do or they have deadlines or there's a lot of money involved in what they're doing. And so they suffer unnecessarily. And as we've talked about already, that suffering means they're not at their best. So they're not really making the contribution they can make. And because state of mind is not seen as the cause, everybody accepts that's just part of doing business.
State of mind is kind of a ratio of how open and receptive your mind is versus how cluttered and distracted it is. And that's something that's fluctuating all the time, every day. So it's not that, oh, well, I'm a such and such person. I live in this state of mind. Like, oh, I'm a happy person, so that's my state of mind. Like, no. Everybody has fluctuations in state of mind, moment to moment, all day long. And that's why things get harder and easier for us throughout the day.
And the most visible part of your state of mind is the way that you feel. You'll notice that as people feel more at ease, they tend to do better at whatever it is. And as they start to feel more disturbed, whether that's tension or stress or pressure or distress, they get more and more incapable because their access to their mental resources is changing and the mental resources available to them are changing.
So those are all examples of something that we, hear this term all the time, state of mind, but sometimes it's helpful to flesh it out a little bit. But it's something that all of us have, and we're experiencing every moment of our existence, and it's having a huge effect on what we're looking at. So state of mind isn't just a state, but it has implications.
And when we work with leaders, they often realize this, and they can see, they can group the quality of their decisions around their states of mind. And they didn't realize it in the moment, but once they step back, they realize, oh, all my best decisions were made when I had a certain kind of feeling that goes with clarity of mind, ease, well-being, a lack of the feeling of dis-ease, tension, stress, unease.
A state of mind actually makes a huge difference in terms of how people feel in life and how they see what they're dealing with, and thus their ability to effectively deal with it.
You start to get more respectful of the fact that you can't outperform your state of mind. You can be more professional about it, but you can't outperform it.
The way the world appears to us is as if we're dealing with a set of challenges, or not even challenges necessarily, but that we're dealing with a set of circumstances external to us, that there are just factors in the world. So if you're a parent, you're dealing with your child. If you're an employee at a business, you've got perhaps a proposal with a budget and a timeline. And if you're a tennis player, you have your opponent and the match you're playing. And it seems as if those are a set of variables that are external factors that have really nothing to do with us. But what an understanding of state of mind brings to the table is that actually, in truth, our very perception of the world outside of us comes from our state of mind. So it's really the originator of what we see in the world, and therefore how we behave and what we're capable of doing.
So it's a primary variable that determines how we deal with the challenges that we face.
So to describe that with a little more depth, we're not seeing the world, we're seeing our state of mind's version of the world. So in this state of mind, I see the world this way. In that state of mind, I see the world that way. And in this state of mind, I'm capable of things that in this state of mind, I'm not capable of. So there's certain days where people find that they look at their child, for example, or try to have a conversation with their child, and they're just in a really good space. And so it goes well, and they have a lot of patience, and they really love their child, and they see them with compassion, and they have great ideas for how to help them. And every parent knows that there's days where you're not at your best as a parent. And so you don't have as much patience and compassion. And so you tend to kind of ignore the kid because you're distracted and stressed, or you fly off the handle because you're impatient. And later, when your state of mind shifts, you think, God, why did I do that? That doesn't make sense to me now. And it's the same thing in the business world. There's kind of the joke of write an email and then wait 10 minutes or sleep on it, because in a different state, your response to business challenges looks different. Sometimes you write an email, the next day you look at it and you think, oh, I'm so glad I didn't send that. Or sometimes you did send it and you look back and go, I can't believe I sent that. And that's pointing to the fact that our perception of the external world changes as our state of mind changes. So we would be different, we would see it different, we'd behave differently.
So we'll often work with teams that are underperforming because they have a deadline that's troublesome, or technical problems that are troublesome, or strategic issues that are difficult. And when they try to operate from a stressed state of mind and they don't realize that's difficult in and of itself, they keep doing it. And so they're dealing with a difficult situation from a difficult state of mind. It's kind of like trying to clean your house with a dirty cloth. The more effort you put in, the worse you make the situation.
I joke as a resident New Yorker that the experience of riding the subway is very different for me day in and day out based on the state of mind I'm in when I'm on the subway. So sometimes I really enjoy the experience. I find people watching to be a lovely little thing to do as I'm killing time on my commute to work. And I'm just generally amused by the whole thing. I enjoy it. I'm fascinated by it. And there's other days where every last tidbit about it annoys me. People are standing too close to me. Why are they stopping this long? Close the doors, close the doors. Oh, that person's in the way of the door. And everything about it is annoying and difficult. And I'm like, ugh, mass transit's the worst. And on other days, I'm like, mass transit's the best. So it starts to point to the fact that, you're really operating in life with a moving target going on within you, which is your state of mind. It's determining what you see in the world, and it's determining how well you interact with the world.
Once you do start to see state of mind, you can start to adjust for it and see it at work. So you're not unknowingly the victim of your own unclarity of mind. And you can start to navigate that. And instead of attributing your difficulties in terms of your stress and your pressure to the circumstance and just accepting them and soldiering on, you can see them as a function of your state of mind. That alone will make a massive difference, because at least you see where your distress is coming from and you know what it's telling you. You're not thinking as clearly as you normally do. You're not as resourceful. You're not as creative. You're not as insightful. And it makes the situation look and feel a lot harder than it really is. So once you see that that's an effect of your state of mind, you don't automatically assume it, you don't automatically suffer it, and you know where it's coming from. And that makes a big difference just on its own.
As I mentioned earlier, we're basically accessing our capabilities for what we want to be doing in the moment through whatever our state of mind is. So it's really just a headspace or a mental space or a ratio of clarity to distraction.
Once you start to understand and see state of mind, you'll start to see that these long-accepted chronic problems of stress, suffering, tension, pressure that are undermining people's performance and assumed to be a part of the normal working world start to look a little less unnegotiable and start to look more optional.